How's it going, everyone? I'm Matt from Universal Audio, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Pultec Passive EQ Collection. Pultecs are some of the most sought-after EQs in the audio world, and with good reason. These tube-based EQs have a beautiful analog sound with smooth, silky highs, warm mids, and deep, punchy lows that sound incredible on everything from recorded instruments to soft synths and even full tracks. It's a well-known fact that just running a track through a Pultec can make it sound better, and that's thanks in large part to its transformers and tube amplifiers, which we fully captured in our end-to-end emulations of these units. There's a reason these EQs are the holy grail for so many artists and engineers, even now over 70 years after they were first released, and with this collection you get 3 different versions that give you that same sound right in your DAW. Let's check out a few ways to get the most out of these legendary EQs. So let's start with probably the most popular of the 3, and that's the EQ P1A. And one of the things that this EQ is really well known for is its ability to sculpt low end. So I have it loaded up here on a bass guitar track. Before we start talking about the controls on the EQ P1A, let's listen to the bass track. There's a few different problems I want to fix with this track, but let's start with the low end. Now the low band on the EQ P1A has 3 different controls over here on the left side of the GUI. There's the frequency select knob, a boost knob, and an attenuation knob. Now one of the really unique things about the EQ P1A is you can actually boost and cut at the same frequency at the same time. And that's what gives this thing its really unique sound. A lot of other plugins have tried to capture those band interactions on the EQ P1A, and that's a really hard thing to do in a plugin, but our emulation here really nails it, and that gives you the true sound of the EQ P1A. Now you've probably noticed that I'm boosting and cutting by about the same amount, which might seem like it would cancel each other out, but in reality, these 2 controls combine to form a unique EQ curve that's perfect for extending low end without affecting those upper frequencies too much. And don't be fooled by the markings on the panel. Even though this frequency select switch says we're set to 30 Hz, the EQ P1A has really broad musical curves that actually affect frequencies much higher. So by bringing in this attenuation control, we're lessening the effect on those upper frequencies and shifting the boost downward. So the next problem I want to fix with this bass track is there's a lot of string noise happening in the upper end that I really don't need. So I'm going to use the high shelf to attenuate those frequencies on the EQ P1A. Now the high shelf has 2 controls over here on the right side of the GUI. There's a frequency select switch and an attenuation knob that controls the amount of attenuation. Now let's play back this bass guitar track again and dial in some attenuation with that high band. So with that high shelf, we're able to attenuate that string noise a little bit, but it also started to remove the attack of the bass a little bit and some of those upper harmonics that are going to make it translate better on smaller speakers. So let's use the middle band here to see if we can bring some of that back out. Nice, so we've brought a little bit of the presence back out of the bass guitar, and I think that's gonna help it translate better on smaller speakers. Now there's still a little too much string noise for my taste. I think we can fix that with a filter. And what better filter to use than the HLF3C, which is included in the Pultec EQ collection. So let's load that up after the EQ P1A. So I have the HLF3C loaded up here after the EQ P1A, and this is basically a low pass filter and a high pass filter in one box. So now I'm just gonna roll off the high end to get rid of some of that string noise and all those other upper frequencies that we don't need on this track, and then we'll take a final listen to both EQs. And now let's take a final listen to the before and after with both of these Pultec EQs. For this next example, let's check out the MEQ5 on acoustic guitar. Now the MEQ is all about the uber important and often overlooked mid-range. and it's perfect for removing unwanted resonance or adding clarity to guitars, vocals, or really anything that occupy those middle frequencies. So there's 3 bands on the MEQ5. On the outer sides, there's a low mid band and a high mid band where you can boost, and then in the center, there's an attenuation band that spans the full mid range. And before we start dialing any settings, let's take a listen to our acoustic guitar and see what we're working with. So this recording is really bright and clear, but it's also a little thin and cold. And I think that's a perfect job for the MEQ5. Let's listen to this again and see what we can dial in here. So boosting at 300 with that low mid band gave me the warmth I was looking for without affecting those boxy upper mids too much. But now we've kind of thrown things out of balance, and I want to bring the clarity back and the presence back using this high mid band on the MEQ. So let's take another listen. So a boost at 3K gave me that clarity I was looking for and kind of brought things back into balance. But just like the EQ P1A, the MEQ has broad musical curves that affect much wider frequencies around the boost. So this 3K boost is starting to affect some of those lower mid frequencies and giving some boxiness that I don't really like. So let's use this mid attenuation band to carve some of that out. So just a slight cut at 1K removed some of that resonance I was hearing, and I'm much happier with the overall sound. Let's take one final listen before and after the MEQ5. For this last example, let's take a look at my favorite pairing of Pultec EQs, which is the EQ P1A and MEQ5. These two EQs are pretty much made to complement each other, with the MEQ5 perfectly filling in the gaps between the EQ P1A's bands. So I have these two plugins loaded up on my drum bus. Before we do any boosting or cutting, let's take a listen to it. So just like the first example, let's start by punching up the low end. I'm going to do the same low end trick on the EQ P1A by boosting and cutting at the same frequency. Let's take a listen to that. So I like the way the EQ P1A has fattened up that kick. The next problem I'm noticing with these drums is there's some washy resonance happening with the cymbals. So I'm gonna use the high shelf on the EQ P1A just to attenuate that a little bit. So now we've controlled the washiness of the cymbals a little bit, but I'm losing a little bit of the attack of the cymbals, so let's see if we can bring that back out using the mid-band. So now I'm happy with how the kick and the cymbals are sounding, but we've created a few problems for our snare. That low boost we've done to fatten up the kick extends too far into those upper frequencies and it makes the snare a little bit tubby. And that attenuation we've done to control the cymbals kind of took some of the crack out of the snare. So these are both mid-range problems, and I think it's a perfect job for the MEQ5. Let's start by thinning out the snare a little bit. So a slight cut at 500 was just what I needed to thin out the snare. Now let's see if we can bring back some of that smack using the high mid band. So I think the MEQ5 did a really good job of fixing both those problems with the snare. Let's take one final before and after listen with both plugins. So as you can hear, these 3 EQs give you all the tools you need to shape the frequencies of your tracks while adding an analog flavor to everything that you run through them. If you're looking for an EQ with character to replace or complement your stock EQs, you're definitely going to want to have this collection in your arsenal. For more info, make sure to check out the product manuals at help.uaudio.com and subscribe to the Universal Audio YouTube channel for more tips and tricks. I'm Matt from UA, and I'll see you next time.